Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I made a chicken pot pie. Yeah,
Already?
which I've never made before. And I just had this craving for it. It just felt like comfort food. And I had this cream. I bought a small thing of cream for something. And then I couldn't remember what I bought it for. And so then I had this cream. And so I thought, what involves cream? And then I remembered what I bought it for, but it was too late because I'd already used a good chunk of it in the pot pie. And I made a recipe that was just for 2 people. And I had it 2 days in a row, and I used puff pastry. So I made it in an individual little French onion crock and put puff pastry on it. And once I'd made the filling, and then I just kept the filling in the fridge for the next day. I made another little crock the next day, and it was very, very, very tasty.
That is amazing. Like the minute you said it, when it came out of your mouth, I just get hit with this wave of nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Because I used to love pot pies, and they're not particularly something I find in restaurants a lot today, obviously, or at least vegetarian ones.
No,
so whenever
not
I
veggie.
hear them, I'm always like, oh, I remember those. I used to love them. And my mom used to make them, obviously, with meat, but yeah.
Yeah. I see chicken pot pies on menus a lot, and I'm sometimes with people who get them, and they never appeal to me in a restaurant because I find them bland. It can
Agreed.
just be a bland kind of floury sauce. But of course, that doesn't happen when one makes it oneself. So
I should really think about trying one, a veggie pot pie. There's no
my
reason I
God, this
can't.
did not even need the chicken. Yeah,
Wow.
it would have been fine just with maybe an additional veg that gave it a little more mouthfeel that the chicken gives it. But flavor-wise, I don't feel like the chicken is a big component. And the chicken cooked in the sauce, which was lovely. So if you do that with some other veggies, yeah, I think there's no reason this basically same recipe. I'm not quite sure. I haven't thought about it yet. What would sub for the chicken? But some potato.
You better think about it. But yeah, potato.
Yeah.
Listen, I'd be happy with mushrooms because, I like that texture when they hold together.
Mushrooms. That would be the
Yeah.
obvious thing. Of course, that wasn't on my radar because I wouldn't use it. Yes, just sub mushrooms for chicken and otherwise do it exactly the same and it would be great.
Okay. And what's the dough?
Well, I used puff pastry. You can use any sort of dough. You can use regular pie crust dough. You can make your own. You can buy it. I use puff pastry, which you buy. Nobody bothers to make puff pastry because it's very cumbersome to make. It's got layers and layers and lots of butter in it, and you roll it out a million times and fold it over. And there's really very little reason to go through that. So you just buy it, keep it in the freezer, roll it out a little, and then it puffs up and it's light and flaky and buttery and delicious.
And is it that type of thing where you can pull out just what you need?
Sort of. You have to sort of cut it, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I still have some in the freezer. I certainly didn't use the whole package. I think it's a trifold if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if there were 2 or 3 segments, but I used one segment that I cut in half for each of my pot pies. So,
Nice.
and it fit kind of perfectly. And you do roll it out just a little bit. I'm not sure why. It might release the butter or do something to it.
Brilliant.
You have to keep it frozen until you're about to use it.
I need to get on that. I'll need to get the recipe from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, not surprisingly, the foundational recipe that, of course, I modified came from America's Test Kitchen, where so many of my recipes come from.
Do you subscribe to America Test Kitchen?
I do. It's an annual Christmas gift from my mom that she started a couple of years ago, and now every year I ask for it again because I think I've only re-upped once, so this is only my second year having it. But a lot of their recipes are in fact behind a paywall, and I use their recipes and I use their taste tests and I use a lot of their information, so I do subscribe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it because I don't know what channel I've had on, but I've been seeing particularly recipes that they've done. And of course, you can't find it anywhere else if you want to watch them again. So I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah. My mom subscribes to the magazine, which is so charming. I love looking at it when I go there because it's so beautiful and well laid out and you just want to read it, and it's short. It's got all these great recipes and info in it, but I have the digital version. So it's less charming, but more comprehensive, and it doesn't pile up and collect dust.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
How about you? What did you have?
Pretty simple, Kate. I made macaroons.
Macaroons?
Oh, right. I had a large amount of shredded coconut I had purchased, And I wasn't particularly hungry. And I thought, I need to figure out how to use the shredded coconut. And I know I wanted something obviously very sweet and sugary. So I looked up a macaroon recipe and I pretty much stuck with it. The one that I got, it was from Martha Stewart. And I figured since it's the first time I'm making them, but wow, super simple. Basically, it's sugar, salt, shredded coconut, egg whites. You mix it all together. You form them into little patties and you cook them in the oven for like 15 minutes.
It's just regular white sugar, granulated sugar. It's not like I always assumed it would have some like sweetened condensed milk or something like that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I know. I was blown away because I was so pleased. I'm like, oh my God, I have all the ingredients in my house to make macaroons. Who knew?
And were they chewy and delicious?
They were chewy and delicious. So the recipe said 15 to 20 minutes. And most recipes I found hovered between 15 to 20 minutes. So at 15 minutes, I pulled half out and then I let the other go to 20. And the ones that went to 20 were a little overcooked. And I felt like the ones I pulled out at 15, a smidge undercooked and underbrowned. So it's one of those
16
things.
or 17, it sounds like. Yeah.
And like once 15 minutes hit, starts opening the oven and seeing how they're browning. That's the technique, I think.
Yes. Does it use sweetened or unsweetened coconut?
I had unsweetened, but a lot of recipes said it doesn't matter. It's just going to affect the amount of sweetness. So I just thought these were pretty perfect because Kate, I made the whole recipe and I could eat a lot of them. The one mistake I made was not having or quartering the recipe because they don't stay fresh very long. So then I gave a bunch to my neighbor, Shirley, who lives next door, to my neighbor, Helen, who lives in the building across from me, and my sister, Helen. I just delivered a little plate of macaroons, rang the doorbell, and ran. And then I knew that there's sometimes chocolate-covered macaroons. So that can of chocolates we got when we were in somewhere in Belgium, and just those little discs that we got from the place where we got the crack hot chocolate.
Yes, that amazing chocolate place.
I melted some of that chocolate and then just dipped about 5 of the macaroons in the chocolate. So then I had chocolate covered macaroons. It was a wonderful experience all around. So it was a good 2-hour process of cooking and eating and sampling macaroons. And then, wait for it, I fell into a sugar coma.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a lot of sugar. So do you prefer with or without chocolate?
Oh boy, I think both are a winner. I did not have a preference either way. They were both simply delicious. And I've had chocolate covered macaroons before. And I think this chocolate was just such good quality. I was like, wow, yum-o-licious.
Yeah, I'm sure that was delicious.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
It was. Welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Rick.
And I'm Kate.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
Season 5 of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night is brought to you by Smart Building Technologies, a leading provider of building automation solutions, bringing smart technologies along with energy savings to the workplace. Find out more at smartbuildingtech.com. That's smartbuildingtech.com. Before you go any further, remember, rate and review us. Whatever your podcast platform listening choice is, please go there. Give us some attention. Give us some stars. It's the best word of mouth we can get.
And to the many of you who have heeded our request to do this, thank you so, so, so much. We're obviously not talking to you. To you, we say thank you and we love you.
We tip our hats to you. Well done. And I did get one email from a friend of a friend of a friend who said, oh my gosh, someone told me I should listen to your podcast since I'm quarantined because I have so much time on my hands, and it's really wonderful. So remember, recommend us out.
I keep seeing on Facebook people asking about podcasts, and so I'm always like, mine, and I put it up there. So when you see somebody asking for recommendations, tell them about this one.
Today is day 2 of what we're eating while sheltering in place. We're so excited to bring you even more fabulous ideas and thoughts on what we've been doing.
Have you found, Rick, that your shopping habits have changed at all?
It's well, yes, Kate, and the one I can tell you is in the what I ate that was at the top of this episode. The reason I had to make macaroons is because I ordered online shredded coconut, and I thought I was ordering the tiny bag, but I got like a 3-pound bag of shredded coconut.
Gosh. Wow. Yeah.
So now I'm like, wow, have to get busy using the coconut. So that's how I came up with the macaroons. So I'm ordering online a lot more. I've made other mistakes like that. I think the biggest change I've done so far is where I go to shop. I'm trying to find smaller places to shop. So I think I've talked about it. There's a place down where I live, this place called Officina, which is an Italian place, which has a small store. So they generally have something of everything I need, like a tomato, an onion, a potato, some type of vegetable, pepper, zucchini, squash. And they have plenty of sauces and pastas and oils and garlic and shallots if I need it. And then I found another place that my sister and I went to. We drove to. It's about 20 minutes away. And although it's a drive, it was so much more relaxing because there was no one in the store. It's just a small sort of higher end convenience store. So where I'm going to shop is probably the most significant thing that's changed for me, and accidentally or being coerced into buying larger portions than I need. Those are the two big differences for me.
Yeah, that I hadn't intended to mention this, but the larger portions thing just made me think I finally broke down and ordered 6 boxes of this pasta that I use. I have this lentil quinoa pasta that I so love. Good. And it's penne and it's green lentil and quinoa flour. That's all that's in it. And it can fool me into, if I cook it right and top it right, I can think it's pasta. It's the only fake pasta that I've ever loved. And I can only usually find it at Whole Foods, and neither of the Whole Foods near me currently have it. And even on Amazon, when you sort of look in the Whole Foods section or the pantry section, they don't have it either. So I can't find it. So the only way I could find it was to order 6 boxes. So I have ordered 6 boxes. So there will be pasta happening. But that's the only time I think I've done that. The main change for me in my shopping habits has been that I generally tend to shop in a more European way, which is I shop for one meal or one thing, and I shop frequently. And I go to multiple stores because I have preferences about specific things at specific stores. I go to Trader Joe's for this. I go to Harvest Time for this. I'll sometimes go to my Jewel for that. So I have a sort of specific rounds, and they're all kind of within a very close distance to each other. So I'm not trekking around town. But I do tend to shop frequently because I tend to pass those places regularly, and I decide, what am I going to make tomorrow? And I'll, whatever. So that's been a big shift, is that now I'm trying to go out every, 10 days or whatever. So I'm having to plan differently, and I'm having to freeze a little bit of produce, which isn't something I typically do, so that I have it on hand without having to pop out to get a pepper or whatever. And yes, more planning and more shopping ahead. So that mostly the only thing I'm going out for seems to be largely produce, sometimes chicken, and dairy. Everything else I kind of, bought in the beginning, and I'm going through it slowly, and then order 6 boxes of online, apparently.
2 things. I'm going to have to get that pasta from you and order it myself and have 6 boxes, apparently, because
I wish I could just send you half of mine.
Maybe I'll give you my FedEx account number, and you can arrange a pickup.
There we go. We go.
You've talked about it so many times, and I've never yet tasted it. And the other thing that makes me think after what you just said is I actually, you know how you have preferences about where you want to go for certain things. I'm actually letting those go. If I see something I like in a place that does not have my particular style, brand, flavor, or how I like it, I'm like, all right, suck it up. Just take it. Let's go. To minimize the amount of stuff too. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm paying the extra 20 cents for the item because it's right there as opposed to where else. Like, I normally go to Trader Joe's a couple times a week, I would say, on average. And I've only been twice in whatever we're at now, 7 weeks into this. So that alone is a huge difference. I'm definitely in Trader Joe's withdrawal. But I have the amazing blessing of having an excellent store, which has a lot of stuff walking distance, like 5 blocks away. So
That's
I can
amazing.
combine a little constitutional with the going shopping. So that is unbelievable. And so that's where I get all my produce, and they don't have a large organic selection, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And like I was looking for flour recently, and I went to 2 jewel stores and could not find flour. And this store, this little one, was fully stocked with flour. So it's also, and they have tons of toilet paper. It's not a kind I would prefer, but it's there if I need it. So it's good to know.
Nice.
They really, they might run out of something like yeast, but then they'll get it back. And so that's really cool.
How long do you keep flour for?
Forever.
Great.
For probably
thank you.
way longer than you're supposed to.
Okay, because I had flour that I know is like at least 3 years old. I used it and it seemed fine.
Examine it carefully to make sure that it doesn't have little bugs in it, because that's actually what happens. That's the problem, I think, is that they come from nowhere, even if it's well sealed. There's a tendency now, there's a trend to people baking their flour before they use it, not just even for the toasting flavor, but supposedly now it's one of those things like in raw cookie dough, you're not supposed to eat, like we're okay with the eggs now, but now you're not supposed to eat raw flour. So people are baking it before they use it. So I would expect that if anything were wrong with the flour, if you baked it first. But I keep it for probably way too long. I finally just started keeping part of my flour. I can't remember which. Is it the whole wheat flour? In the fridge, because I read something about that. So it might be my whole wheat flour that I now store in the fridge.
That's so interesting.
My white flour's in a canister. No, just the white flour just is in, sealed tight canisters with lids and stuff, but it just stays out and it seems fine.
I read years ago, at least 3 years ago, because I think that's how long it's been in my fridge, just stored in my fridge. So it's been in my fridge the entire time.
Oh, then it's probably still fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the other new shopping thing I've been doing. I've been shopping at this place called Shirley's, which is next door. So my neighbor Shirley subscribed to a CSA box, where they have it. You can go and pick up your box with all the different vegetables, and they're also now being delivered. And she couldn't eat it all on her own. So now whenever she gets a box in, there's a big old email exchange. Sometime we'll open the doors and talk across the hallway and just say, Rick, what would you like? And I would say, I will take this, this, and this. And then she puts them on a little platter for me and leaves them outside my door. And ideally, when the pandemic's over, she's like, you'll just cut me a check when everything's over. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
I love it. You have credit at Shirley's.
Credit at Shirley's. I love that. Totally.
You have a tab. Just put it on my tab, Cheryl.
That's what I'm going to say. Cheryl, just put it on my tab. Oh, now every time I see her, I'm going to use the Laverne and Shirley thing. I'm like, oh, Cheryl. I never thought of that. I'm sure that won't annoy her at all.
No, I'm sure she's never heard that before. That will be witty.
I'm nothing but witty if it's 20 years late, at least.
Another difference I have found has been like the timing of my eating and snacks versus meals. And I find that if I'm not careful, I don't really start eating until 5 or 6 at night. And then I just eat the whole night. And that's obviously terrible for a lot of reasons. So I've been trying to make a point of eating earlier so that I'm not ravenous at night, which seems to be mostly what's been happening. Yesterday, I cooked chicken tikka masala at like 10:30 in the morning because for 3 days in a row, I'd been planning to make it and I had time in the evenings, but I couldn't get myself to do it. And in the morning, I had time and I wanted to do it. And I thought, well, maybe I'll have it for lunch. And so I made it. And by the time I made it, I was like, no, I don't really want it. So it's sitting in my fridge waiting. But it was, I thought, a good solution to at least cook when I wanted to cook so that then when I wanted to eat it, it would be ready.
Nice. That's super good planning.
Yeah, totally. And I'm snacking a little bit less.
That's great. One of the things that happened to me was super interesting is when I was doing all that initial shopping, when I knew that they didn't want us to go out, thought, oh, what are all the things I want? So I really invested heavily in the snack portion of my supply. And I thought, well, what are the things that I'm really going to want that are really, when things get a little bit tough over the course of the 4, 5, 6 weeks that I could pull out and really enjoy. So some of those things were goldfish. I love goldfish, some Oreos, some nuts, some really great nuts from the Virginia peanut shop that I really, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a couple things of ice cream because I thought, oh, that'll be good just to spread out over the weeks. Well,
what a good idea to have all that in the house and have it last for so very long. How clever of you.
Yeah, I guess you can see where this went. All of that stuff was gone within like the first week and a half. It was so terrible of an idea.
God, I saw all those memes about everyone eating all the quarantine snacks. Yeah, totally.
That was moi.
Well, yes. I mean, Of course you did. Good heavens. If I had that shit in the house, I would have eaten it too. Good Lord. My only source of pride is that at the store, I generally, like one time I literally cried because I didn't let myself buy chips. Yes. So I genuinely have been working on that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a bit of a disaster. So the good thing is pretty much all my snacks are gone. Haven't been to the store since to buy some, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. You'll have to pray for me.
Oh, I do. I made more of those egg bites that you and I have discussed. This time, bacon, scallion, cheddar.
Those are so good, Kate.
Yeah, they were freaking delicious. I made a weird puree. It was broccolis and potatoes and cream cheese, basically. And it was a puree, and it was really tasty, and garlic and maybe Parmesan cheese.
Nice.
It was really good. And I made an asparagus and leek salad. I roasted asparagus and leeks. And this was one that was cool because I just felt the asparagus was on sale and it was gorgeous. I prefer bigger asparagus to pencil thin ones. And it was big asparagus and it was there and it's seasoned. And I just been craving leeks. I'm like, I like leeks. I want to start using leeks more. So I bought asparagus and leeks and I'm like, I will figure out something to do. And I thought the obvious thing is soup, but I didn't want to make the soup. I didn't want to make a risotto. So I I roasted them and then tossed them with a dressing that was basically olive oil, lemon juice, and garlic. Super tasty. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds really, really good.
Yeah. I made this weird thing of Yukon Gold potatoes and broccoli, which I cooked up. And then I tossed it in a dressing that I made of yogurt and blue cheese and hot sauce and a little mustard powder and seasoning, salt and pepper, and smoked paprika. So I made like a combination sort of dip salad dressing, and I tossed the broccoli and potatoes and some scallions in that.
That sounds great.
It was really, really good. That was one of those things I felt proud of. I'm like, what do I have and what can I use? Yeah.
And that's sort of an ongoing theme, right? Really being creative about what you have in your kitchen and what you can use.
Exactly. And again, I really like that.
Yeah.
For me, that's really fun. And having the space and the time and the thought time. Because when I have people over for dinner, I cannot tell you how long I spend thinking about a menu when I'm going to have someone over for dinner. I spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to make. And then I research recipes and then I create my shopping list and then I have to plan out the timing of it. And then I make it. Like it doesn't just magically come together. It takes a lot of time and thought. So having the ability to do that for something minor for myself is fun. And that's feeling brilliant. Like I have to use up what I have.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
I've been making stuff for cocktails. As you know, when you were here, I made a ginger syrup and a homemade tonic for gin and tonics.
That tonic was so great.
Yeah, you have to buy cinchona bark chips, which is the source of quinine. And apparently that's the source of quinine in like store-bought tonic as well, is cinchona bark. Like that's where quinine comes from. Who knew? And then you simmer it with lemongrass and peel and juice from lemon and lime. And then you simmer it and let it sit for a while, like a day. And then you strain it and you add sugar or at some point you add sugar and citric acid and it sits and it strains. And then you have tonic. And then if you want to make it a tonic water, you add club soda or seltzer water or whatever. Otherwise it's a syrup. And the ginger syrup is amazing with, with anything. But again, with just seltzer water, with gin, with bourbon. Really,
the amount of
really
flavor
tasty.
You got out of that ginger was amazing. It just was so pervasive. It was really wonderful. And it tasted really fresh.
Yes, thank you. That reminds me, I have some more ginger in the fridge and I have to make another batch of that because I have all this ginger.
Are you shipping yet?
I am not yet shipping.
All right. Work on that, would you?
I will.
So one of the places I've been ordering out from is this Indian place on Capitol Hill that I love. It's called a Tish on the Hill. And one of the things I tried to do is before I order on Grubhub or Caviar or DoorDash, I go to the restaurant site. And then sometimes I've called and actually asked what's the best way to order so that they get the bulk of the money. One of the restaurants I've been committed to is this Atish on the Hill, is because they actually have their own driver still. So whenever they show up, a little car with one of those little light boxes on the top that says Atish on the Hill. And a lot of times I feel like it's one of the during the shelter in place, it's been one of the owners that's been doing some of the drive-bys to deliver food. So that makes me really happy. So I think that's just an important thing to focus on when you order. How can you order in a way that's really going to drive most of the money right to the restaurant?
Yes.
They have this really wonderful Matar Paneer, which is farmer's cheese and peas, and it's in a creamy curry sauce. I just cannot explain to you how wonderful the cheese is, the little cheese cubes they do. And the curry sauce is just the right combination of cream, spice, and those peas. I know they're not fresh, but they taste really fresh. And they always say that it's served with authentic saffron basmati rice. And I very rarely get basmati rice that I can eat by the spoonful. But the way the saffron is spread through all the rice, I literally start eating that before I start eating the main dish. I just shove it in because it's so light and so flavorful. It's really wonderful.
And are all the grains separate?
Yes, exactly, right?
So
it's just
good.
So light.
Right. And it's ironic that the lightness comes from oil, probably. That's what keeps it separate. So it's light because it's covered in oil.
I love it.
Oh,
it's
God,
so
I want
tasty.
Indian food now really bad.
Yeah. And they also had these wonderful veggie samosas, which they were more flat triangle shaped, rather than sort of triangle and an apex that, sits and points up. So I really love them because I just thought what I don't like about the ones that maybe look like a ball with a triangle shape somewhere in there.
Yes.
It's so thick when you bite into it, you're getting so much of the inside. But this one, because it was a flat triangle, all the ingredients are spread out so easy between the crusts. And I thought, how wonderful is that?
That's a great
So
idea.
delightful. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
The one time I ordered in was from a Greek place that I hadn't been to yet, but I learned about it because apparently it was opened by the same people who had run another Greek place that had been my favorite, and it closed. So I got this pork belly gyro that was crispy and delicious, and a couple of other things that actually didn't travel so well. It was delicious, and I will definitely order from there or I will go there actually in person when we can still go places in person again, because some of the stuff I got would be better in person, I think. But it was great. So now I'm thinking about what the next thing is, because normally when I order in, my main go-tos are pasta. Like that's one of the main things I order. But I've actually been cooking a fair amount of pasta, both real pasta and my fake pasta that I love, which is lentils and quinoa. So I haven't been inspired to order Italian. I haven't been inspired to order pizza. It's so interesting. I made burgers one night, so I haven't been inspired to make burgers because I was so desperate for a burger. I made one. So Chinese is really sort of what's left, and Asian-y type things. But then I make a lot of stir fry. So I don't know. I haven't decided what the next thing is going to be.
Isn't this fun that ordering in is such a perk now? It's such an interesting dynamic.
Which it should be.
Exactly, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Because I'm where you were in the beginning right now. So the last couple of weeks I've come back to salads. I've been having definitely a big old salad a day. So it's definitely either arugula and spinach, and then really whatever I have in the fridge, which has usually been a pepper. I bought a bunch of shiitake mushrooms that I was able to saute up, and I just have them in the fridge to throw on. Definitely quinoa. I have some Parmesan. I also have some goat cheese in my freezer. So one of those will go on. I also have some jalapenos chopped up in the freezer. So I'll sprinkle those on. They
just raw?
Yeah, just raw. So they're a little mushy, but they sort of get lost in the texture of the salad. So that's okay. I also keep pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, as we talked about. If I could just remember to use the sunflower seeds, that would be awesome. And olive oil. And I've been doing a lot of white balsamic vinegar because I've been loving it so much more than the red balsamic vinegar. Salt, pepper, and it's just been really, and eggs also that I throw on. So that's been a go-to every day for the last, I'd say 10 days. So that's been really great to make that shift consistently.
Totally. It's definitely time because I probably had a good 2 weeks in a row of salad every day. And then I think it was just like, all right, I need a break. So, but it's time. So next time I go to the store, definitely some fresh greens are in my basket. After I made the burger, I had some beef left over and I had to figure out what to do with it. And I also had some pasta left over because I had previously made, so now we're getting into like my more decadent version. I had made a mac and cheese using half a box of pasta. And I use, the basis is Ina Garten's mac and cheese with tomato recipe, even though I don't use tomatoes, but that's what I use for basically the cheese sauce and the ratios. But I mostly made it up. And it was flipping amazing. I put bacon in there and it's terrific. Bacon. So, oh my Lord. So I did that. And then I had this pasta left over and I had this beef left over. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want more burgers. I didn't want to make spaghetti sauce. I didn't want anything with tomatoes anymore. I don't know. I just had to figure it out. So I made like a hamburger helper type thing in the Instant Pot using these shells and the rest of the beef. And it was good. I won't make it again, but it was interesting and fun to eat for like, again, a week probably. So for 2 weeks, I ate like a whole box of pasta and a bunch of cheese and a pound of meat. So there was like a 2 week period where I was eating like meat and or pasta and cheese like almost every day. So that became way too much. So that happened, but we're past that.
Super creative recipe, though. Good try.
Thank you.
You made me think of Sloppy Joe's. And I remember when my Sloppy Joe's came on the scene and we were generally eating it once a week. Even then, I remember one of the few times in my childhood that I remember, I really don't like meat. I love the texture. I love the roll. I love the gooiness of it, the runniness of it. But the idea that there was just so much meat in one thing that I was going to eat, even then, I have very visceral memories of thinking, I don't like this. But nostalgically, I miss it. And I actually had just been today looking at some recipes for vegan Sloppy Joe's and vegan pulled pork. So I'm going to experiment with those.
The lentil Sloppy Joes are really good because Sloppy Joe is all about the seasoning and the sauce and the bun. So you can replace the meat with bulgur and lentils, and that will be flipping amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great.
What would replace the pulled pork? Jackfruit?
Jackfruit, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some recipes out there that combine mushrooms with carrots, so I might try that.
As you know, because you have been covetous of this, I also made peanut noodles.
Oh, Kate, you were killing me with your peanut noodle saute. It just sounded so good.
So I found this package of udon whole wheat noodles in the back of my pantry because that's another thing I did was I have these really narrow, deep pantries. And so as I was trying to stock things up, I had to pull things out. And I found like 7 things of oats that were like 5 years expired that I accidentally ate some of. Like there's just a whole bunch of stuff at the back of those pantries. So anyway, I've been working with that. So anyway, I had these udon noodles and I'm like, what does one do with udon noodles? And I'm like, well, obviously peanut noodles is what one does. So I can't have peanut butter in the house because I'll eat it. So I treated myself to peanut butter, which was why I ended up making the peanut butter cookies. So between the peanut noodles and the cookies, I used it up. So it's gone.
Thank God.
Exactly. So I made the udon noodles and I toasted them I tossed them in sesame oil, toasted sesame oil once they were done. And then I tossed that with a sauce that I made with peanut butter. And I use the sweetened, creamy peanut butter, although crunchy would be good too. But like Jif or Skippy would be the thing, like not that natural crap. Like it has to be full of sugar and preservatives. And if I didn't use that, I would add a little sugar. But I didn't add any sugar because it's already in the peanut butter. But otherwise, a little brown sugar would probably be good or honey. Soy sauce, tamari. I have these garlic enzymes that I get from Whole Foods that are like amino enzymes. Coconut aminos, but it's like a garlic sauce made of coconut aminos. I don't exactly understand it, but it's healthy and it tastes like garlic. So I put some of that in and sriracha and rice wine vinegar and lime juice. So that was basically the sauce.
I was so jealous hearing you because that's all I wanted. Because let's talk about the texture, let's talk about the flavor, and then the whole sort of nostalgia quality that you're getting. It was so happy.
I tossed that with some raw bok choy that I chopped up, red pepper, scallions, and then you top it with cilantro and sesame seeds. And I had some smokehouse almonds. I didn't have any peanuts, but I had smokehouse almonds, which I chopped up and put on top for the crunch. And so the smoky sweetness from those also really infused it. So it was very good. I ate that probably 5 days in a row, and it made me really, really happy every time.
I was super happy. I can only imagine what it was like to eat it. Oh, yum-tastic.
Yeah.
Oh, so also ordering in the first couple of days, I ordered Chipotle, and then I went off Chipotle because, Chipotle is so huge. I'm like, Rick, you got to spend your dollars other places. I mean, I do love me some Chipotle. So I did that a couple of times. I also did a pizza from a local pizza chain that I really like. So that was really good. And my sister and I got food one night from a local Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, because a lot of the Chinese and Asian restaurants have been suffering a little bit more so at a disproportionately amount so during this time. So that was really
weren't
tasty.
you and Emmy getting a lot of that Chinese shrimp or something?
Yes. There's this beautiful little place called Satay Club that just has this great Asian fusion. They have so many wonderful, tasty things, and it's prepared so consistently and so well. They don't change their menu that much, and I'm like, thank you. Just do what you do it well. And it seems like they're doing really a bang up carry out business. It's really
good for them. Yeah. Good for them. I made something that I have nicknamed Power Pasta. It came from, there's this cookbook called Quick Vegetarian Pleasures, I think. Yeah. And it's green, neon green in color by Jean Lemlin. I still remember that. And I discovered this cookbook in graduate school. My friend Tiffany, I think, was the first one to get it. I think she was experimenting with vegetarianism and she got this book. And I think I was too, or I don't remember what happened. But anyway, everyone I know suddenly had this book because we were like, oh my God, this is the best book. And it has so many really, really great recipes in it. And so one of the things it has is this chickpea with garlic sauce pasta. And a friend and I years ago named it Power Pasta because it was one of those foods that the combination of the carbs and the proteins made you feel like Popeye after you ate it, because it has spinach in it and chickpeas and the pasta. So I made it, but with my fake pasta, which is lentil and quinoa pasta. And it's basically chickpeas, fresh tomatoes, spinach, and garlic and red pepper flakes and pasta water and Parmesan cheese. That's it.
That sounds
And it's
perfect.
one of those where the whole is so much greater than the sum of the parts. It tastes so much better than it has any right to, given how simple it is and how easy it is to make. So totally. I need to remember that and make it more, because I had some spinach in the freezer, and so it was perfect. It works really well with either fresh or frozen spinach. So
nice.
It's really good, and it's a good way to get in a bunch of spinach. So that made me really happy.
That's great. Pulling things out of the freezer beef in the early days, I had gotten a bunch of kale and I chopped it up and I cooked it really simply with some ghee, some onions, and some carrots. And it froze really well. So that's all something that I would pull out. And it's super easy to throw on top of the thing of quinoa.
Yes.
To throw on top of a farro dish, because a lot of the seasoning was already in the vegetables that I had cooked. So that was a really, really simple solution. I've been really consistent about labeling everything I put in my freezer. And I found one thing from long ago that I did not label. So I'm like, well, let's see what it is. I pulled it out and I ate it. It was a soup of some kind, and I'm still not really sure what it was.
That's hilarious.
No idea, but I ate it. Still tasted okay if I could just
good for you. Like
anything.
It's not going to be poison, but yeah. I just put something back in there the other day and I didn't label it, thinking I'll remember this, and it's wrapped in foil. I already don't know what it is.
It's quickly how it goes, isn't it? How quickly that information leaves your brain.
Yeah.
This round, I also put dates on, Kate. You'd be very proud of me.
Good for you. I haven't moved on to dates.
Mm-hmm. No, maybe. One day.
I'm optimistic that nothing will stay in there long enough that it matters.
Let us pray.
But that's the same optimism that leads one to not labeling anything and then being like, what the hell is this? Because you can't see, because you put it in, you're like, I'll be able to tell.
Yeah.
You forget that when it's frozen, you can't smell it. It doesn't look the same. It's just a chunk of something. And so, you really can't tell.
Color changes a little bit too. It's hard.
Yeah. Everybody, if you're not labeling shit in your freezer, really, you must. This is one of those things that has come through from my mom. As you know, my mom is a big help to me in many things kitchen, and that is one. Last night I made this weird fridge clean out thing, which was another thing I felt really proud of. I just pulled all this stuff out that had to get used. And I'm like, somehow this is going to become a meal. So I had this container of juice that came when I made the pizza. You make the sauce using a can of tomatoes and you strain it. Mm-hmm. So you only keep the hard part. And so you end up with a whole bunch of tomato juice and strained tomato. And I wasn't going to throw that away because it's tasty and it's good. So I have this tomato juice. And then so I cooked that with, I feel like I'm going to forget some stuff, but a whole bunch of garlic. And I had a green pepper, again, left over from the pizza, and some onion because I still have way too many onions. And so I cooked all that down into a bit of a sauce. And then I had this little bit of chicken curry that I had made a long time ago from the freezer. And I'd been eating it for days and I was sick of it. So I threw the rest of it in there. And then I thickened it with some yogurt. And then randomly, I just had this mozzarella cheese left, also from the pizza. And so that went in there. And there was no grain or anything, but it just all kind of got mushed together. And it was really good. Wow. It was really, really, really good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Isn't it fun when you can just create a whole bevy of things to use from your refrigerator and look at it and be like, what do I do with this? It's like your own little, what's that new show on the Food Network where they had to buy someone's groceries?
Right.
You have no
Supermarket stakeout.
Yeah. Or the box, or Chopped,
Chopped. Exactly. Exactly. And I feel so proud of myself when I don't throw something away and I keep it. I'm like, I'll find a use for this. And then I do, which when I'm really busy, I'm more inclined to let it sit in there. And I'm like, all right, I didn't. And I throw it out, So it's fun to be able to be like, okay, what am I going to use?
Yeah. Speaking of Food Network, I follow Jeffrey Zakarian on Instagram. So he's been doing this whole thing of cooking from home with the Zakarians. And he does this whole thing of, let's just pull everything from your pantry. And it was really funny because I'm like, what kind of pantry do you have? Because he has the
pantry of someone who owns multiple restaurants. That's your pantry. Your pantry is the pantry of a high-end of the Lambs Club.
I was like, I do not think anyone has any of that stuff in their pantry. He's very casual. He's like, yeah, just pull it out from your pantry. And then there's the bevy of meats he has. I mean, does he have a deep freezer somewhere in his huge apartment in New York that he's just getting all this stuff from? So it was very funny because the stuff he was pulling out, you're like, what? And it's clear everyone started trolling him online about it.
Are they? Good for them. Yeah, the pantry thing I saw him do on the kitchen, it was like, it started out being a pantry thing because it was like a 3-bean salad using canned beans. And he was looking at the canned beans as though he'd never seen them before. He's like, look, they're in a can and you can just open the can. And so he was like mystified by that. And then it had like carrots and onions and things. It's like, okay, I can justify that being the pantry. But then it had like 7 fresh herbs.
Totally.
And if there's one thing I don't have a lot of right now, it's fresh herbs,
Yes. Exactly.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much for listening. And again, just record something on your voice memo. Let us know what you're cooking, what you're doing from your home.
Have you done anything creative? Have you pulled a whole bunch of weird stuff out of your pantry, fridge, or freezer and made something delicious? Please share that with us, and we'll either play it on the show or we'll describe it to people, because if you've done it, other people will benefit from it. So let us know how you're hanging in there.
Rate and review us. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.